Hey, how's it going? It's Chris here from LunaTrace. I wanted to show you some of the work that we've been working on to help you find vulnerabilities in your production apps. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to use LunaTrace to help us find vulnerabilities to start. So we're doing the snapshot directory, and our directory that we're currently in is the application that we developed. So in this case, it's the damn vulnerable Java app, right? The app that definitely does not have any vulnerabilities in it. So when we run this tool, it's going to give us a link that we can go to look at the vulnerabilities that may or may not apply to our application, but we at least know that the dependencies fall in the vulnerable range. So in this case, flag two critical vulnerabilities, and these are in log4j, right? So that probably means that log4shell applies to this application, right? Or may not apply, right? We know that the vulnerable dependency is there, but we don't know if the vulnerability is actually exploitable in our application. And we also have struts2 core, which was the vulnerability that attackers used to get into Equifax. So two pretty bad vulnerabilities have been identified as possibly applying, but now we need to dive deeper to actually figure out if they apply to our application. So to do that, we're going to use the dynamic tracing agent that we've been developing to look for the presence of the functions that have been sort of identified as the bottlenecks or the entry points to the vulnerable components that we've flagged, right, in log4j and struts. So to do that, we are going to say, we're going to issue this command, which is going to associate our agent running, right, so our running application with the information that we've just collected, right? So now the agent and LunaTrace are talking to each other so that LunaTrace can tell the running application, hey, hook these functions and just tell me if they've been called. We need to know if this vulnerability applies or not. So now that we've associated the two, we can now run the production app, and we're going to inject our agent into it, which is going to hook these functions. So as soon as we run, the very top here, we see some logging messages, right? We're initializing our agent. And what has happened is this running application has asked LunaTrace, hey, what do you want me to hook? I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to hook some functions. And so LunaTrace gets back to it with the functions it wants to hook. So this one here is telling, hey, we want to look for all log4j logging calls, because that's how we'll know if log4j actually applies to this application, if it's running the function, right? In this case, the info function is the one that we're zeroing in on. So our application is running, and we're loading our application. We're going to log in, and what has happened behind the scenes here is our agent has told LunaTrace, right? So our agent loaded into the application is telling LunaTrace, hey, we're going to start sending you some messages so that you can log them and see what's going on. So we have some hooks here set up for identifying SQL injections. And so far, it doesn't look like there's anything that's been going on. So now we can go into a specific example here where I know there's a vulnerability. And I'm going to type in an SQL injection. So this for string 1 is equal to this. I think that's right. So right, we've done an SQL injection inside of here, but we have some more activity happening behind the scenes that I want to show you. So right, we have these logging statements which show all the code that's been hooked, and we do have like basic application security stuff going on here, right? Looking for SQL injections. But I think where this tool really shines is the fact that we have now identified this log4j call, which has logged out the message searching for user 1 is equal to 1. So yes, we have found an SQL injection over here, but what we've also done is verified that a function that applies to a vulnerable dependency has been triggered, right? In this case, log4j. And we can map it back down to the vulnerability and the criticality of that vulnerability. So typically when we collect SBOMs, right, we're trying to inventory, we're trying to understand, hey, what vulnerabilities do I have in my application? But now we can take that a step further and now associate runtime information with that SBOM so that we can say, not quite definitively, but we're getting there. This vulnerability probably applies because we're running the function in production that you have flagged as vulnerable from the vulnerability. And we have now a next level degree of certainty that this is probably a problem and that you should have your security engineers, your developers actually take a look at this. So we obviously still have a lot more work, but we're working on it and we're pretty excited about it. So till next time.